Hi, my name is Violet Price, and I have been making little video blogs like it's 2007 because that was sort of the happiest time of my life, and I really missed that time when we just made video blogs for each other. I asked people on Twitter if they had any questions for me, and CyberSif asked me to talk about being genderfae and what that means to me, which I thought was the best question I've ever been asked. CyberSif, I believe, was one of the very first people to contribute to my crowdfunding for my movie, and that'll always mean a lot to me. Anyone who did at the beginning, I'll never forget. Um, I have a lot behind me now. We have a $100,000 budget. We have influencers, and we have real actors in it. We're making a real movie. But to believe in me before I had all that stuff is the kind of thing like it'll always be special to me, and I'll always appreciate it. So to answer CyberSip's question, algae, so good. That's actually like a question I've been thinking about all day. Um, I think if you would have asked me a few months ago, I would have had a very straightforward answer. My relationship with it definitely evolves over time. I think they asked me what it was like to be transgender and then to be gender. Being transgender was easy. I've heard it explained that um, the reason people don't know they're transgender is they don't have a vocabulary to express that. Like you know something's wrong, but you don't know what it is. And then as you live in culture, you start learning that transgender people exist and what goes on with it. And just by simply understanding what it is, it becomes very clear that's what you are. That was a very simple process. I luckily was dating someone at the time who was very queer and was very kind of a queer icon, kind of an author who was kind enough to crack my egg right. And I was very lucky to have somebody of that nature. However, being genderfae was a whole different thing. There's a couple different ways I could describe it, and all of them are true, and all of them are contradictory almost. You know what I mean? Like, one way I could put it is, like, I've always said being non-binary is the only gender identity you can sort of be talked into, because it's correct. If you know enough about queer theory and you realize that gender itself is just an idea, and once you see through the matrix of it, it's very clear that, like, it's just an aesthetic and anyone could be anything and nothing matters at all. We're all going to die. It's all just words. It's all just what makes you feel good about yourself and how you relate to society and who you want to be. And once you see that, I think it's hard to say that you're not non-binary, unless you don't want to be non-binary, in which case go nuts being binary. It doesn't matter. But I feel like I was very compelled by that. And I remember I started dating a lot of xenogender people, which was a real interesting experience. Like as somebody who has their own relationship with gender, meeting people who have these very unique genders, and seeing their relationship with it was something that had a really profound impact on me. And one way to put it would be that since you can be anything you want in the whole world and nothing means anything, why wouldn't you be a non-binary feminine fairy entity? Very plainly, like if you could be a fairy and all you have to do is say you're a fairy to be a fairy, why isn't everyone doing that? Why not? Like, why not live your life as a fairy? It's valid. It's as valid as anything else. Although I hate that word valid. I feel like it's been discoursed to death, but don't we all? Anyway, I say I'm a fairy, so I'm a fairy. Fuck you. And also, the pronouns are really cool. I just think they're cool pronouns. I love when people use my pronouns. The way I talk about my pronouns, although no one uses them, I think anyone who uses xenopronouns, especially fae fair, especially like the more unusual ones, and especially people who hang out with older people. I have found if someone is going to use my pronoun doesn't have anything to do with how much they respect me or get it, it's literally an age thing. Like anyone over 50 is just never going to get it. The brain doesn't have neuroplasticity to learn new language. They get confused. It's like old people. Whereas I find younger people who are more around queer people take to it very easily. Which is too bad because my wife is, older than me, and it means a lot to me, and she does okay with it. My life would feel a lot nicer if she was better at it, but she's doing her best, and it's a lot to ask anyone over 40 to learn a new vocabulary, neuroplasticity. The way I tell people my pronouns too is I feel like you can't expect people to call you fae fair. It's just unrealistic. People are too shitty. Or stupid, or lack neuroplasticity, or whatever. So the way I tell it is like, and I think this is a healthy way to look at it, you can call me she, her, that's fine, but when you call me Fae Fair, I feel like you're making a little effort to do something nice to make me feel good about myself, and I appreciate that. And I wish I had the opportunity to just do little things to make other people feel nice about themselves. Like if all you have to do to make someone feel good is use a slightly different word, and you like choose to do that and make an effort, that's just very nice. And like being nice to each other, kind of a good way to live. There's probably more to it than that too. Like to be honest, some of the metaphor, if you think of it as a metaphor, I don't want to like undercut my own statement, but some of living the Fae life, or just being born a Fae, I suppose, as it is kind of personal, and I don't like really have the vocabulary to it. I want to write a movie about it one day, and I've already cast it. There was this wonderful actress who, very early in my process, I really wanted her to be the lead in my movie. She auditioned 4 times. Faye auditioned for like I'm terrible. Faye auditioned for like 3 or 4 times, and she wanted it really bad. And Faye auditioned several times, and Faye wanted it really bad. And I wanted her to star in my movie, but it just like didn't work out for like a couple different reasons. But I do want to work with Fair. I'm making some terrible point by accident. I do want to work with Fair, and the thing is, I never do it for anyone else. Okay. I'm terrible. I really want to work with Fair, and I'm going to write a movie about being genderfae, and Faye's going to star in it, and it's going to be really good. I don't think I'm ready to write that movie now. I can't wait to write that movie. I have ideas. I want it to be about being in a band in your 20s and like how much that can mean to you, and like the whole music thing and how that lets you down, and how like when you're a magical creature who lives in a banal world, you're kind of there's like a tragic beauty to it in Fair's case, in this character that I've been writing. I'm not there yet, and I don't really think my journey to understand what it's all about. Like I know it's right, I know who I am in my heart, but like unraveling what that means is a lot more complex and interesting to me than just being transgender, which is, to be honest, not a big deal at all to me. I was talking to someone yesterday who was talking about like, oh, if you wanted to be trans, you like must have been depressed because you have to blow up your whole life and face all this prejudice. And to be honest, I didn't feel that way about it. I didn't see. I mean, in the last 2 years, it's gotten worse. But when I transitioned, I didn't see being transgender as a big deal. Like I watched Pose. I had transgender friends. They seemed really cool. It was like an exciting, fun thing I got to do. And yeah, like it wasn't like I just, there's days when you're nervous about it, of course. But I didn't really see it as blowing up my life or taking on the prejudice. In some ways, I'm naive because, like, obviously, like now that I live walking around with fake boobs and a face that's not passing, yeah, there's some bad parts about it every single day. But I don't even think I understood that's what I was signing up for. I didn't even think of it as signing up for. I was just like, oh yeah, that's okay, that's a thing. Thanks, society, you kept me from it long enough. But anyway, yeah, I've always wanted to meet someone else who was Fae Fair. My girlfriend is, but I like respectfully to her, I don't think she has the same relationship with it I do, or maybe that other people do. Maybe she does. We haven't really talked about it. I just like think she's pretty, and calling her a Fae makes her happy, and I love that for us. Like it's beautiful. I love you, Jazz. But I'd like to meet somebody who didn't become Fae Fair, like who became Fae Fair before I sort of pitched it. You know what I mean? I don't want to call my girlfriend a copycat. I don't know if she's even my girlfriend. She's someone I really care about that I kiss sometimes. Anyway, enough about me. But yeah, I guess that's what else can I say about it? I have so many thoughts, but like it's interesting that it's something that I think about and don't have fully formed thoughts on, and that's very interesting to me because there's very few things I can say that about. I feel like I have definitive opinions at this time in my life, or if I don't, I can just educate myself or talk to people who do. Whereas this is so personal and so weird, to be honest. Yeah, maybe I'll do another video blog in 6 months and update because I think I'll have a lot of growth on this exact topic. I know in my heart I am. That's like that's an absolute. And I know that I love those pronouns and no one ever gives them to me. I remember when I was getting my boob job, I was coming out of my surgery, and they kept talking using she and her, and I was like all fucked up on drugs, and I was like so annoyed. I'm like, it's unreasonable to expect nurses in a medical situation to learn my weird pronouns. Yet at the same time, I don't know. Um, that is what it is. I need younger friends, I guess. Although I tend not to like younger people. I like them okay, but you know, I like maturity, and I already did my 20s, and it was a lot of immaturity at the time. Sorry, 20-year-olds, which is my audience. People in their 20s, you're gonna love your 30s. You're gonna hate your 40s, but 30s are like all the cool stuff of your 20s without all the people gossiping and drinking too much, and you'll see. Anyway, I'm getting on a new topic. My point is that I'm a non-binary feminine fairy entity. Also, I think it's a very funny joke. Um, Although it is like the most serious, personal, meaningful thing in my life, probably hands down. I have two flags. Um, it is the most personal, meaningful thing in my life, but it is also very funny. And it is very funny when transphobes tell me I'm not a woman, and you say, of course not, I'm a non binary feminine fairy creature. And they do not have the talking points ready. Um, yeah, it's also very interesting to me that no one seems to care. Like, no, when people ask me questions about my life, and they generally don't, no one gives a shit about me, which is fine. That's life. I don't care, like, whatever. But, oh yeah, no one's ever asked me that before, which is really funny because I think it's just like meaningful. The thing that obviously means a lot to me. Like, I'm always waving my flag around. I'm always posting like genderfae memes. I'm always making genderfae jokes. And no one's ever really asked me like, what's that about? I don't know. Maybe people just write me off as a goofball. Who knows? But I'm a little surprised this is the first time I've even had the opportunity to talk to about it, including most of my loved ones. Um, anyway, so that is my poor answer to a good question. And I appreciate that you asked me a question I could not easily answer. And I hope me rambling about it and going on tangents was at least enjoyable. I will say these videos are very unpopular. The last video I made for someone got exactly 1 like, and it was for the person I made it for. I don't give a fuck. YouTube is not about getting views. If I wanted that, I'd be on TikTok. Although it'd be nice if I got more than 1, right? Like, I don't know. Anyway, my vanity aside, thank you very much, CyberSif. Thank you for donating to my crowdfunding and believing me before a lot of other people did, including people in my life. Although the last thing I will say about Fae Fair is almost no one uses it, but when people do use it, it's usually genderqueers trying to own me. Like, I've had a lot of people who talk shit about me and like they won't use my name, but they'll be like, let's just say Fair says, and or Faye says, and you're like, okay, like we see what you did there. Or they'll be like owning me online and suddenly they've mastered my pronouns. The only time I can count on someone to get my pronouns right is when a genderqueer wants to get into it with me, which usually I'm just blocking anyway. But it is funny that the only time, some of the most pronoun affirming moments have been people getting mad at me, because they're always fighting in their head and they're worrying about, you know what I mean, genderqueers. They use all the language perfectly because they're immaculate. Anyway, CyberSif, thank you for this, and enjoy my 13-minute video. 3 minutes longer than I wanted, but who fucking cares? Okay, boom, one of those.